If you visit San Jose, California on a sunny afternoon, the Winchester Mystery House looks like an eccentric piece of local history. Thousands of tourists walk through its manicured gardens every year to see a bizarre, oversized Victorian mansion. The official story is famous. Sarah Winchester, an extremely wealthy widow, believed she was cursed. A spiritual medium convinced her that the only way to survive the angry spirits seeking revenge on her family was to build a house and to never, ever stop building it. Those spirits supposedly belonged to the thousands of people killed by the product that funded her entire operation, the Winchester repeating rifle. For nearly 40 years, Sarah's paranoia manifested in wood and plaster. She directed workers to build doors that open into solid walls, corridors that narrow into dead ends, and staircases that lead directly into the ceiling. Documentary filmmaker Ethan Cole made a living debunking exactly this kind of folklore. For a new series, he and his 4-person crew secured rare permission to spend 3 nights alone in the house. His stated goal was simple: prove the haunting was an illusion created by terrible architecture, bad lighting, and an overactive imagination. Assuming the mansion is simply an old, static building leaves you completely unprepared for its actual mechanics. The house operates differently the moment the daytime crowds leave. Once the sun set and the final security guard locked the exterior doors, the crew reported an immediate atmospheric drop. The daytime historical feel vanished, replaced by a dense, occupied silence. Ethan initially brushed off the early data. Every camera battery inside the main parlor dropped instantly to 0. More bizarrely, thermal cameras detected distinct, human-shaped cold pockets moving slowly between completely sealed rooms. Then, near the famous seance room where Sarah supposedly spoke with the dead, the sound engineer's microphone picked up heavy audio interference. Buried beneath the static, a voice whispered 2 clear words: "Wrong room." Moments later, the entire crew heard soft, methodical footsteps directly above their heads. The problem is, checking the official blueprints confirmed their location. They were standing on the top floor. There was no physical level above them. An unexplainable upper level breaks the hypothesis of psychological fear. To find out what was walking above them, the crew realized they had to step off the safe, mapped tourist paths and navigate the blind spots of the house. The investigation escalated at 11:17 p.m. on the second night. Motion sensors triggered deep inside an abandoned, off-limits wing of the mansion. Checking the live feed, the cameraman saw a perfectly formed, dust-covered staircase descending into the dark. Earlier that afternoon, they had walked past that exact spot. It had been a solid, load-bearing wall. This digital floor plan highlights the discrepancy. The white lines represent the official layout of the house. The highlighted section shows the live camera feed, proving a new structure had physically overwritten the existing architecture. Against all advice, Ethan led the crew down those new stairs. The clean, preserved tourist aesthetic immediately disappeared. They entered a decaying section of the house where the wallpaper had blackened with age, and furniture sat covered in undisturbed, heavy sheets. Victorian portraits still hung evenly spaced along the narrow corridors. But as the crew walked past, they noticed every single painted face had been violently scratched away down to the bare canvas. The environment was no longer acting like an empty building. The crew had walked into an actively shifting spatial trap, and the house was rearranging the maze behind them. For decades, mansion employees passed around rumors of a forbidden sector called the Unfinished Hall. Workers who accidentally wandered into it reported rooms that felt impossibly large, stretching far beyond the physical exterior of the building. Deep inside this unmapped wing, a loud bang echoed through the floorboards, then another. Soon, the rhythmic sound of heavy hammering and wood saws surrounded them. Unseen construction was happening live, directly behind the plaster. This hammering follows a deliberate, productive rhythm. It suggests the mansion's building phase never actually concluded, with crews working in the shadows to expand the interior architecture in real time. A door creaked open at the end of the corridor. Warm candlelight spilled out, illuminating an old woman dressed entirely in black. She wore Sarah Winchester's face, though her features shifted unnaturally in the dark. She looked at Ethan and whispered, "You're late." Suddenly, the hallway filled with pale men in dust-covered work clothes. Their eyes were completely black. They ignored the crew, carrying heavy lumber past them and swimming hammers into the shadows. These shadow workers are incorporating the crew into the house's current layout, hammering new boards and sealing corridors to turn the wing into a permanent cage. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the architecture attacked. The hallway behind the crew physically folded inward. Solid walls crashed together, instantly deleting their only known exit. Looking through the ornate windows offered no orientation. Instead of the rainy San Jose streets, the glass revealed an endless pitch-black void. As the walls shifted, Ethan noticed deep scratches carved repeatedly into the wood panels. It was a tally, reading, "Total remaining 5." The exact number of people currently trapped in the hallway. The lights exploded. Deafening sounds of saws and hammers erupted from every direction. In the pitch black, dozens of human hands burst through the fragile wallpaper, grabbing at the crew as they blindly ran through the shifting rooms. At 2:17 a.m., the physical boundaries of the house become irrelevant. The crew is no longer just exploring the mansion, they have been written into its design. When a morning staff arrived, they found all 5 crew members unconscious near the front entrance, completely soaked in rain. The heavy deadbolts on the exterior doors were still locked from the inside. Reviewing the mansion's security server revealed a system-wide crash at 2:17 a.m., but one frame survived. It showed the crew running through the hall, watched by dozens of dark, motionless figures lining the walls. The trauma permanently fractured the team. The historian vanished from public life, and the sound engineer suffered recurring dreams of unfinished rooms. The others quit the industry entirely. The architecture of the house had followed them out. But 6 months later, an anonymous package arrived at Ethan's apartment. Inside was a heavy, dust-covered brass key. The attached tag read, "Room 246. This digital archive displays the original 19th century Winchester floor plans. Ethan scoured the records, desperate to prove that room 246 never existed. Yet looking closely at the negative space between 2 dead-end corridors, faint new lines appear on the digital schematic. They outline a tiny, unmapped space, bearing a single word, "reserved." The Winchester Mystery House never actually stopped building. The workers are still hammering in the dark, and Ethan is simply waiting to check in.